For staying tuned to Niger Delta Today. Well, it is a somber day in the country as the commemoration of the armed forces who are usually remembered today for their selfless services to humanity has taken center stage with a lot of heartfelt tributes trooping in droves. Different states of the Niger Delta and across the country, especially the Federal Capital Territory, are holding official services in commemoration of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. Leaders and citizens alike agree that the task of military service is not just difficult, but one that requires complete surrender of one's personal ambitions and aspirations while giving full dedication to the cause of protecting the sovereignty of one's country. The armed forces of Nigeria have over the years been committed to these values and have in different occasions reiterated their commitment to the values of the democratic process chosen by the country. But the question of welfare of military men, a component that is vital in boosting their morals for this Herculean task, is still at the front burner. We will assess military service generally in the country, attempting to get to the root of the peculiar hurdles of these unsung heroes and what can be done to truly honor their humongous contributions. Are they only to be remembered when dead? What can be done to make these special sects of the country truly happy in the path they've chosen? Are there those areas to explore? Well, joining us is a very senior comrade in the civil society organization. He is also himself the convener of Akwa Ibom civil rights organization, a human rights community, in the person of Barrister Clifford Thomas. Barrister Thomas, you're welcome on Niger Delta Today. Good to have you on the program.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, it's a special day.
It's good to be here.
Thank you.
On the day when we are supposed to be sad, but political office holders are actually clinking glasses and drinking champagnes, not minding the sacrifices of those who actually paid the supreme price to put the country together as one.
At least not today, because most of them are different forums of the service that has been organized today to ensure that these persons that have sacrificed.
You'll be amazed that a lot of them are going to eat suya, drink wine to celebrate their being alive, to see the commemoration of today.
Well, every celebration in Nigeria comes with merriment.
But today today was supposed to be sad.
Well, in that note, let's just retrace and look at the military service in Nigeria holistically and see the contributions of these men who have chosen this path. It is really a tough path to choose, but then they still make these sacrifices and they put the country first, even before themselves, even before their families. Let's say the journey so far, how has it been for the armed forces of Nigeria?
Well, the armed forces of Nigeria didn't begin in 1960. It started much earlier than that. But when we began to have an organized national institution called the Army or the Armed Forces was in 1960. And even though we had a colonial army, colonial police, we can't countenance them or count them to be part of the Nigerian army. But I think once you get into the army, you sign up in the army, to the army, you are a dead person. You can die anytime because you can be sent on national assignment anytime and anywhere. The protection of our national integrity is the primary purpose or essence of the armed forces, whether on land, whether by air, whether on the sea.
Okay.
So that's where you have the concomitant or agglomeration of the armed forces, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. And we would say that over time, the Nigerian Army or the armed forces may not have received requisite equipment that is required to actually face the different sphere of warfare. We have gone beyond the Civil War, which was conventional warfare, ground troop to ground troop, Air Force to Air Force, and Navy to Navy, to a point where it has become more sophisticated, and you have guerrilla warfare with the insurgents fighting to claim territories in Nigeria. And who will do this fight other than those who have enlisted into the army, into the armed forces generally? So they go there to do it. But I would have expected a situation where by now, the Nigerian army, the Nigerian armed force should be able to manufacture or worse still assemble its own equipment. but we still buy heavy arms, light arms, and small arms from countries and military contractors that are there to make capital gains from our weakness. But if we were able to get our equipment together, I'm very sure that the casualty rate, excuse me, the casualty rate of the armed forces would have been low.
Okay.
And if it is low, it means that we have superior firepower. Unfortunately, the Nigerian army, the Nigerian armed force, they are not just fighting local enemies. They are fighting surrogate enemies who are masquerading as soldiers of fortune against Nigeria. And so they bring in very heavy equipment. In fact, some don't even come with heavy equipment, but they come with equipment that have heavy, heavy military effects.
Okay.
Could be very small, they could appear light, but they attack us. Now, the social part of this whole thing is that the welfare of our troops, no matter how much, I think we spend so much over time, we don't think the welfare has been really taken care of, particularly for those who become casualties in the field, who pay the supreme price. How do they treat their dependents?
Before we dwell on that, Barrister, you talked about military prowess in terms of our equipment and weapons and all of that. So are you saying now that the military, the armed forces, should actually enlist people with the technical know-how to put these things together, to manufacture, or better still assemble, like you said?
Yes, we have gone beyond the stage of assemblage,
Okay.
of assembling parts of weaponry. We should be, okay, let me take our minds back to the Civil War. There was a very popular explosive called Ogbunigwe. It was manufactured here. In fact, light arms were manufactured, medium level arms were manufactured also in Nigeria.
Okay.
So what stopped the drive for manufacturing? They gave us alternatives, and the alternative was for us to continually buy from them. And there are times they even blackmail us when you go to buy. You attempt to buy from country A, they give you conditions before you buy. And they forbid other countries from selling to you. So they have their military contractors, they come and create war for you, and then give you the equipment and supply the other party equipment. But if we were to manufacture here, we would have had an array of various sophisticated weapons.
Meaning
available.
we're unable to harness what we had.
Look at what happened during Jonathan's time, President Jonathan's time. They gave monies for the army for equipment to be bought. Were those equipment bought? We heard stories much later. But if we were to do them here, one, there wouldn't be pressure on the dollars, on foreign exchange. Two, we would have manufactured what we want. Three, we would have improved on the technology to manufacture. And four, we would have had expertise in different areas.
Okay.
So that's why I am of the opinion, and a lot of persons are of the opinion, that we should be able to manufacture our arms.
All right, Barrister Clifford. Well, we know that over time, there's been a huge dedication of much of the country's budget to the issue of combating insecurity in the country. And usually we get these allegations that these funds are not properly used, or they are diverted for other...
These are not allegations. These are established facts. Dasuki came out, he said a lot of things.
True.
A lot of them from the former NSA, one time NSA, the chief of army staff, the chief of general staff, all of them, they came out to say, point accusing fingers, not mere allegations. They say, yes, I was giving this, but I later misused the money, gave to this. I didn't buy those arms. So those are not allegations. Those are established facts.
If you're asked now to come speak about it in a legal forum, they'll be like, okay, maybe they spoke under duress.
No, how would you say they spoke under duress?
They could tell that.
I wouldn't want to believe that this man spoke under duress. They knew they got the money. They knew what they did with the money. They knew they didn't do what they were supposed to do with the money. And the effect on the army, in fact, they should not just be arrested and tried ordinarily. They are saboteurs. Okay. They are saboteurs. They have caused the death of several military men, which we are crying for today. And some of these men were very brilliant young men. that had so much to offer, and because of not having sufficient firepower, they died in the process.
Barrister Clifford Thomas, that brings us to the issue of welfare for military men in the service of Nigeria. This has been a cause for concern because every now and then we see military men being wasted for one venture or the other that they involve in, whether it be it in the country or outside the country where they go for international peacekeeping jobs. But then, does the welfare package that has been allocated to these military men, is it adequate? And apart from even talking about adequacy, does it even get to them in some situations?
I was to distinguish between adequacy of those welfare packages and diversion of the welfare package.
Yeah.
There are two different things. Number one, so much has been budgeted for. It will amaze you to realize that what has been budgeted for is sufficient.
Okay.
But do these things get to these men? No, they don't. We have heard stories. In fact, some military men have, in the theater of war, in the field, they have done videos of the kind of food they get, the kind that they drink water from. They don't drink good water.
Even non-functional equipment sometimes. Yeah.
Of course. We were privileged to have gone to Sokoto to do a court martial. And in that court martial, we discovered that the welfare of the army, military men, are not properly taken care of. The ones that are put in guard room, the young guy said he's been there for more than 2 years, almost 3 years. He was supposed to be paid 10,000 naira every day. He has not gotten 10 kobo. His salary has been seized. His family has been chased away from the barracks. And the stories he gets from home breaks his heart that he could actually bear it alone there. But when he hears some very gory stories from home, it breaks his heart. And that's what breaks his spirit. Okay. So the welfare of military men have not been too well taken care of. Whether what is budgeted for is adequate, whether what is released is adequate, whether it ever even gets to them, there are different stories for another day. Yesterday, a retired military officer came to my office. A blind man. He said he was forcefully discharged from the army 42 years ago. His pension, his gratuity has not been paid, that he's been detained, he's been persecuted, and he told me that there were others who were going through the same thing. So I began to wonder that if somebody from another ethno-religious group is favored and treated well, why would people from this part of the country, the ethno-religious segment we belong to, not be treated well? Because he was doing comparison. He was blind. The army has not taken care of him. The army is not interested. He was discharged with, there's a letter, he was discharged with full benefits to be paid. He has not been paid 10 kobo from that money. 42 years ago. And the man was aided to my office yesterday by persons of goodwill. Okay. And we sat down and interviewed him. There are a couple of other stories like this.
And this one is still living.
This one,
about those who are fallen.
Except he died yesterday night. But as at yesterday, he was still alive, and I'm still going to contact him. Now, I would expect that the government of Akwa Ibom State would have done a census. Let us know how many retired army personnel we have. Okay. And having known them, in fact, use your own structure as a state government to identify them and begin to cater for their welfare. The welfare, most of these were, in fact, he said the only 2 children that died. Oh, my God. And there's nobody to take care of him. Aside from one other military man who, whenever he gets his pension, sends him 10 or 15,000 every month. That's what he lives on. Okay. And how does he even manage? So the welfare generally of these military men have not been taken care of. Those, their dependents in the barracks, they are kicked out immediately they die. They die in the field. We would expect that the army should be able to create a military housing estate or scheme to accommodate them, or even help them if they have land to build houses. And say, this is the retirement benefit of your father, of the one who brought you to the world. So it's very sad that this is happening in Nigeria today. Okay,
now talking about the fallen heroes, you brought up this man who is still alive. Now, is there supposed to be something like a robust reintegration program for those who were discharged to become civilians again and even get job opportunities like every other person in the country? No retired military man can become a regular, because all we hear is old soldier, old soldier. Old soldiers, I said, I know they died. Now, road in a miss. No? So they can find their way to the grave without dying, though. Okay. So, no retired or discharged
military officer is normal again.
Okay.
Because of the drugs they take during training and all of that. So they should be considered very special. Those who are enjoying any kind of perks are those who were high up there. This man was a private. He said he entered the army at the age of 16,
Wow.
like I said, and he grew in the ranks until he was forcefully discharged. So I think there should be a robust program that will integrate them back into society. Most of them are better used as megad, and it's very demeaning to bring them to that level. These are actually living heroes of Nigeria. The Nigerian government should show them love, should be able to integrate them properly and give them something more beneficial.
Okay. Now, you talked about them not being normal. This has to do with maybe post-traumatic stress disorder and all of that.
That is part of
Who should
it.
be saddled with the process of taking care of their mental health before reintegration?
It should be pushed to the state government.
Okay.
It shouldn't be a federal government thing again. Since you come from state A, your governor should be able to, this is the federal government suggests a scheme, gives a proposal on what should be done. Number one, give them accommodation. They need houses. Number two, make their medical bills, their medicals to be free.
Okay.
Number three.
Both them and their families?
Yes.
Okay.
Number three, ensure that the education of their dependents is accommodated. And you could look at other things that could aid them, because they were not trained as civilians, they were trained as military men. Their primary duty was to kill. And if you don't debrief them properly, they will become problems in society. So, but they could be useful in society. The ones in the intelligence unit who worked with the DMI, Director of Military Intelligence, integrate them into the DSS and the police. Work on them again.
If not as active as consultants.
Good.
Okay.
Then there are those who worked in education corps, in the engineering corps, in the medical corps. Please make them become useful, because an idle mind is the devil's workshop.
True.
If you don't bring them in properly, they could begin to think of something very negative against the society, which made them what they are.
All right. Barrister Clifford Thomas, time would really indeed fail us if we were to delve into some of the methodologies that government must apply in ensuring that these living heroes, not just only when they are dead, are taken care of while they are alive, which would of course go ahead in encouraging others who see this venture as rewarding, a sacrifice that they are willing to give to want to go into the military service. Thank you very much, Barrister Clifford Thomas of the Civil Society Organizations, for making our time to speak on Niger Delta today.